Hello everyone, I'm Simon Ford of Ford's Gin. Martinis, gin and tonics, Negronis, great classic cocktails is what I'm about. But I also love to hear from great bartenders from around the world, which is why we've partnered with Beyond the Drink for this season. Cheers.
Well, you just heard from the man himself, Simon Ford, and we are glad this season of Beyond the Drink is once again brought to you by our friends at Ford's Gin. I'm Cappy, and in this series, we're going behind the bar. It's time to explore the journeys of the world's best bartenders, uncovering their passion, the latest gin trends, and of course, the social impact they make in their community. Beyond the Drink airs every other week right here on Beyond the Plate. If you're new to the pod, welcome. If you've listened before, we're glad you're back. Let's go Beyond the Drink. L'chaim. Today, we're talking with four-time Beyond the Drink guest, Simon Ford. He's the co-founder of the 86 Company and Ford's Gin and is a leading voice in the spirits and cocktails industry. If you missed him on Beyond the Plate and Beyond the Drink, you could catch him in season 6 when we discuss his journey with Ford's Gin, which was a fascinating episode. Again, in season 8, where we discuss Ford's incredible program they created called Music to Drink Martinis To. And then again, last season in season 9, when he joined the great Julie Reiner for one of our Duos episodes. That was a fun one too. You can find more on him in the episode notes and follow him on Instagram at Simon Ford's Gin. Please enjoy this episode as we go Beyond the Drink with Simon Ford. All right, Simon, you know the drill here. It's audio test time. So why don't you give us 3 ingredients you are loving with gin right now?
Right now, I am loving this Allure liqueur that's out there. It just like really goes well with citrus and gin. Very much drinking a lot of gin and ginger. Like that's sort of my favorite. And I got to go to an old favorite, but I don't think it will ever leave, but Fino Sherry.
Love it. You sound good. Let's do it.
Excellent.
All right, Simon. So you've been on several times. So instead of telling us like what you do, tell us why you love doing what you do, being a co-founder, a gin maker, a voice in the industry.
So Ford's Gin has never just been a bottle of gin to me. Of course, we worked very hard to make it taste great. We worked very hard to make it communicate and look as good as we could, the functional bottle. But what it is to me is an extension of the hospitality industry. And the hospitality industry is what I love about what I do. The people that are good in it, the people that truly succeed, are usually those who care about other people. They care about community. They care about things like the quality of the meal. They understand the rituals and the traditions of meals. They understand the rituals and traditions of drinks. And ultimately, they're all about making others happy or their day better. I almost want to sort of quote Will Guidara through the entire thing I'm saying right now. But that's what I love about what I do. And when it comes back to me being a founder of this bottle of gin, well, I think, what can we do with this gin? Because with a gin comes this thing called marketing. And marketing actually doesn't have to be a billboard. Marketing can be a gathering of people that's bringing community together, giving them an education, giving them an experience, almost giving back hospitality to that person. It can be the ability to sort of host and sponsor something that is charitable. And so I've never thought of it as just a gin. I've always thought of it as this extension of the hospitality industry and how it plays a whole role in the ecosystem of what we do as a community in the hospitality industry. So it's so much more than just liquid. I think about it. And of course, I got my team and all the beautiful people I work with, all the bartenders I get to meet because of a bottle of gin, all of the great chefs I get to meet. I get to talk to you a 4th time on the show.
Love it. Love it. Always love talking to you.
Just people, right? Like the hospitality industry is just this community of wonderful people that are giving and offering people great experiences. And because of that bottle of gin, I get to be a part of it. And I love that.
So wild, the power of that, huh? If you weren't doing this, what would you be doing?
I think I'm going to blame the bear. I've never wanted to be a chef more. And most people don't want to be a chef after watching that. No, if I wasn't doing the gin, I think I would be in the business of opening either a bar or a restaurant and running it and being able to offer experiences that way. And I think the number one thing I aspire to do in retirement is open a wine shop because I just love wine. And there is something about a wine shop can close at 9 o'clock when a restaurant, you're still putting tables and chairs up at midnight and 2 a.m. And a wine shop, people do come in and they say, what can I drink? I'm having this for my meal tonight, and you get to give them something that you think is wonderful, and the next day they come back and say that wine you gave us was amazing, give me something like that next. I really enjoy that process and that interaction, and I'm obviously very passionate about wine as I am gin. So I think that would be what I would do if I wasn't making gin.
That's really cool, and also a perfect segue to my next question. By doing more than 9 seasons of this podcast, if I've learned anything, it's that you gotta love what you're doing, from all the chefs and restaurateurs and bartenders that we speak with. And the segue being, I know you're excited about this new distillery home place in London, great Ford's Gin cocktail bar. So hopefully that's scratching that itch a little bit, but I want to hear more about that.
It does. It ties back to the questions you've asked already. I think about that journey about 24 months ago. Thames Distillers, our partners who make our gin for us, who make Ford's Gin, Charles Maxwell, the 10th generation, and now his son, who is the 11th generation, George Maxwell. And we have a new head distiller, Ocju Lee. And so they joined, Ocju joined in November, and when we were at the old distillery, but we were given 18 months to move. And when I went on that journey with Charles and George, I was like, we should find a place where we can offer hospitality. I always think about the approach to doing an event. We go into people's bars, we go into people's restaurants, we try to sell them gin, but obviously we're there to experience their hospitality. And whenever we do an event, we get to reciprocate that hospitality, albeit once a year or once every now and then. But we love that. That's kind of why we do events. But if we had a brand home, then we could reciprocate a place that we have created for our guests. And so we built our very own cocktail bar. And it makes so much sense for so many reasons. One, Ford's Gin, the idea, the concept was born in a cocktail bar. It was ultimately created for people who work in cocktail bars. And so for us to be able to tell the Ford's Gin story in a cocktail bar is very fitting. But more importantly, we get to invite people in for a very well-made cocktail when we tell that story, offer them a coffee, maybe bring them some pizzas that we serve with their Negronis. We had oyster shucker in there for some guests we had last week. And so we get to use it as a space to offer back and give back hospitality to the people that give us hospitality on a daily basis for me for sure. And at the same time as telling them the story of Ford's Gin, and then it's a bar next door to a distillery, and it's the first thing you walk into, and you almost forget you're at a distillery. You sort of get lured into a false sense of security. You're like, oh, this is a nice bar. And then we get to, after they've had a martini or a gin and tonic, usher them into the distillery, and they get to meet Ocju and George and Charles, and we show them the stills and how it's made. And then when they've sort of seen the production, we get to go back and just hang out. And it's a really nice way of us conveying who we are and what we're about. We had the very first guests, actually, we did the test run for the bartenders at the Connaught Hotel. There's an amazingly highbrow venue in London, and a place that understands hospitality like you have no idea. Oh, actually you do, but it's just one of those incredible places. And so knowing that a lot of them are Italian as well, the bartenders at the Connaught, we had a coffee machine when they arrived. We put a little sign up saying, welcome to our friends at the Connaught. We made sure we did when they went into the distillery, we had a secret wood-fired pizza truck, vintage wood-fired pizza truck hidden around the corner. And we brought it around so that when they came back from the distillery to the bar, we had wood-fired pizzas and Negronis for them, so we can do surprise and delight. And so of course they had this remarkable afternoon. We had them make a Connaught martini, with all of the flair that they give to that drink behind our bar, and everyone had this wonderful day. And so that was our very first one, and we were able to do with this new space what we set out to do. And of course they left having a wonderful afternoon. It's team building for them. It's new friendships for me. They got to see how we make Ford's Gin in the tiny little still house out the back. And yeah, it's working. The vision is coming to life. And right now we're still working on details. I'll be honest, the ice machine hasn't showed up yet. The dishwasher wasn't plumbed in properly. We learned the hard way there. So it is a bit like, I know anyone who's opened a restaurant or bar is going, yeah, welcome back to the...
Exactly, yeah. Real industry stuff right there. The not so sexy stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. But again, it brings that empathy back to me for what they do, which hopefully helps me better at what I do. But yeah, I would say that the distillery has given us the first opportunity to really welcome guests to see what we do in a way that we would like to do it. And it's very small. It's not a grand place. It's very just cozy and comfortable, but we have it, and it's in London. And I'd say that by early next year, we'll be able to sort of start inviting people on a more regular basis. So I'm very excited. It won't ever be open for business, Andrew, but it will be invited guests, or if someone is in in London and they text me or want to see it, or if someone reaches out to the website, we'll try and make it available to people in the industry and entertain them that way.
And we could record season 11 of Beyond the Drink from the bar in London, or what?
By the way, that would be an incredible thing to do, because the bartenders can just nip down in a taxi and you could meet everyone there.
So cool.
Call it the martini sessions, the Forged Gin Distillery martini sessions.
Just mic them up and sit at the bar and let them like play and talk and be cool.
Exactly. Actually, the one thing we don't have yet is a stereo in that bar. That's number one on my list to get.
It's funny, as you know, we had Ago and Giorgio on last season, and they're just like the top of the top gentlemen, talent. And I was looking through your Instagram post where you were giving the tour of the bar, and I saw Giorgio commented saying, it's always emotional listening to Simon, and it's exciting to see Forged Gin homecoming to life, which I thought was really incredible.
Giorgio was the very first person to make a cocktail behind the bar, apart from the person that built it.
His story is amazing, just like how he connected with Ago in the hotel. It's so cool. Not going to give you the story, everybody. You got to go back and listen to the episode.
I will, Andrew, I do want to share something about that bar that was built, because you just made me think about it. When we invited the Connaught, I'm like, I need you to christen this, Giorgio. So Giorgio came behind and made a Connaught martini. We went to a company called Transit Studio to do the interior design, but if we were going to have a bar that was going to be state of the art. Forged Gin has always been about working with the experts. And when we created our gin, we worked with the best bartenders. We worked with this 10th generation distiller. We worked with Joseph Flax for our botanicals, who've been importing for 130 years. It's sort of almost like bringing together expertise. And so when we were building a bar, we're like, who is one of the best people at designing bars in the world? And we went to Leo Robocek from the Nomad, 11 Madison Park previously, the Nomad, to come in. And so don't think that Simon Ford, who hasn't been behind a bar in 20 years, designed that bar. I might be washing some glassware there from time to time, but Leo Robocek came in and built us a absolutely beautiful, like the Rolls Royce of bars, Rolls Royce of prep kitchens. So when you do come, it doesn't look like we don't know what we're doing. It's because Leo knows what he's doing,
I love it. But could you hit upon some of the attention to detail, which I'm sure was a Leo, a group thing. I would love for you to just touch upon some of those things for the listener.
I mean, Leo thinks of everything, right? It was funny. Leo came down. He's like, I think they put the marble bar top on a little bit off. You have to lean over a little bit too much. We're going to need to move that. He's very detail oriented. I do love that as well. He's made sure that there's a fridge and a freezer on both sides with all of the glassware for martinis and the Negronis chilled. So he's made sure we're looking good, and it's very slick and built. There's nothing sort of sticking out anywhere. It's a very custom made bar. And then there are touches like we've got a kegerator with 2 cocktails on tap. And I would say that one of the details there is that the tap handles are the umbrella symbols from the Forged Gin bottle. In the drip trays, we have all the Forged Gin elephants where the liquids will drip. So there's some sort of like touches of branding within the bar, but very subtle. But yeah, Leo designed it so that we had all the mod cons ready to go. The area for the bitters, the area for crushed ice and fresh juices for when we're open up for events. Obviously, the kegerator really helps when we have big parties. We hosted our first event there last week, in fact, just to sort of take it for a test run and see how that went. It was about 50 people. And it was a nice, intimate, lovely affair. And we were able to get all the drinks out efficiently. And if the dishwasher hadn't broken, we would have probably cleaned up quite quickly also.
So I was talking to my producer who spends a fair amount of time in London, and he was saying lucky Brits to get this in their capital. But we wanted to throw out a potentially tough question and maybe finally put this age-old debate to rest. Brits, Aussies, Irish, Scots, or Americans. He wants to know who's the best drinker.
The best drinker in the world? That's a good question. I think I want to hand it to James Bond, to be honest. He might be fictional and it may have come from Ian Fleming, but if he's in Turkey, he knows to order Raki. If he knows to order the Cuba Libre or the daiquiri, he knows how he wants his martinis, and it's not always shaken, not stirred. He has various different martini recipes that he would order throughout. I think it's him. He knows what champagne to order. He knows what vintage of Bordeaux to have. If that's what taxpayers were paying for the spies back in the day, I don't know how happy I am about that.
That's so funny. I have become a massive Negroni fan, and I want, fair to say Negronis have increased the popularity of gin, do you think?
Absolutely. I think about the first time I had a Negroni. It was the USA. It was in San Francisco, my very first one, and this has to be aging myself now, over 20 years ago. There was a small cult following of a drink called the Negroni. And it was weird how it was explained to me, but it was explained as a drink that a bad bartender can't get wrong back then. And this is a very interesting time for bartending because most bars are not keeping the vermouth in the fridge. And actually, most of the bottles of Campari were looking pretty dusty as well. And yet, these bartenders, there was Tony Aberganen, who'd been on your show many, many, many times, and Jacques Bezaden, who's a South African bartender at the time in San Francisco, loved this drink and told everyone they hung out with to drink it. And that was my first sort of foray into it. And I picked up what they were doing. I was like, you're right. It tastes better than some of the drinks that are being made on the gun and all of these things at the time. You know, this is granted not when you're going to, say, a bar by Julie Reiner or one of the Sasha Petrasky bars where they're making amazing drinks and they know how to make a Negroni and they're stirring it. But it was hard to find good cocktails. And the Negroni sort of became this bartender handshake. It was like a very known amongst bartenders, but I don't think anyone else was finding them that approachable to drink. And it just started more and more bartenders drinking it. And I think it's the ultimate bartender handshake cocktail to this day. I think bartenders made it cool and now they are everywhere. I think Campari should offer shares to bartenders. It's amazing. But now, I mean, it is one of the greatest drinks. It's almost, I think the story goes it was invented in 1919. How it took that long for those three ingredients to come together in bartending is such a surprise. But then to think of it must have been very difficult. But as soon as it was tasted, I'm sure everyone was like, hallelujah, this is incredible. And so for me, Negronis are out there. I do remember when Anthony Bourdain drank one as well. And now it's in one of his famous quotes that often gets used. And I think he helped make it cooler. But the slow build of the Negroni, and I think one of the great marketing things that has happened in the spirits industry is Negroni Week. You know, a whole week dedicated to putting it on cocktail menus around the world now. And it raises money for various charitable causes just by like small donations. And people now do guest bartending. I'm going to go and travel to this country and I'm going to make Negronis. I think the whole thing around that drink has made it like the martini, like the pina colada. That drink is more than just a drink. It's a lifestyle. It's perfect.
You spoke about that so eloquently because like the whole time you were talking about that, the history, the handshake at the bar, like it's 3 ingredients. Like, you know what I mean? And like you said, people are traveling to other countries to drink a Negroni for Negroni Week, or bartenders doing guest bartenders for like this thing that's 3 ingredients. You're not having to make a tincture or a cordial, or you're not having to make something, a component to the drink. It's just 3 bottles.
It also gives me faith in the way palates are evolving. Like that is not an approachable drink, but it's a very delicious one. And there's lots of complexities. Gin is a complex spirit. Campari has got all of those bitter and complex flavors. Vermouth is not a simple spirit. It's also complex, made out of all these flavors and herbs and spices. And that's 3 very complex ingredients coming together and somehow merging together in perfect harmony. It's like this bittersweet symphony of wonderful flavors. And as you know, when you have it before dinner, it's just a magical experience. But it's sometimes after lots of craft cocktails, you're like, you know what I need right now? A Negroni. It's that drink. It's that go-to when you can't think of what to drink. If you like them, the Negroni comes to your rescue quite often.
Yeah, truly. You know, the last time you spoke about a drink, a cocktail of this nature was the martini when we recorded and you told us about the music to drink martinis to, the whole program. But I hear you got a new music to drink something to program in the works.
Well, in the works is the right way to frame that. It's in progress. We're hoping to release the 2nd record, the follow-up to Music to Drink Martinis 2, I think next February. So can't give too much away today, but just know that what's coming is really exciting. The musical Ode to the Martini was such a success that we felt that the Negroni deserved the same. And we got very lucky. We met with a record label who has access to the archives of some incredible music from some of the most famous record labels of all time. And so we sort of had this mini creative brief. We sort of said, if Quentin Tarantino were to remake La Dolce Vita, what would the music be? We started brainstorming all of the sort of styles and we sort of narrowed down on a few styles. And then this record company led us into the vault, into their listening rooms. We were drinking Negronis and listening to music on the most perfect sound system, going, that's the one. And we think this time, rather than Music to Drink Martinis 2, which was all music that was made specifically for us, right, by Handsome Boy Modeling School. This time we've gone into the vaults and selected music from some pretty well-known artists. A few of them are tracks people might recognize, but there are some brand new records, songs that people may have never heard before, but the music has got a really incredible vibe. And so we can't wait to share that. And of course, we brought in some of our favorite bartenders and they'll be creating cocktails for us to go with those drinks. And so more on that in February, but it's very, very exciting. And our good friend Dan the Automator came and remixed one of the tracks too. So there's a connection to the first record as well. We're continuing to do fun things that make the cocktail the star, but sort of showcase the cocktail as, like we were talking earlier on the Negroni, more than just a drink, but a lifestyle.
With that Dolce Vita reference, if Mark and Med are listening to this episode, I'm sure they're going to be shooting you text real quick to...
Actually, spoiler alert, one of the bartenders we're working with is the bartender at La Dolce Vita, and Mark and Med, being wonderful friends in the industry, let us do the photo shoot for the album cover there. So it all comes together. And of course, as you know, these things write themselves sometimes. When we were like, where should we do the photo shoot? Well, Mark, Med.
Those guys are fun, man. They were a blast to talk to.
So much fun. They're some of the best operators out there. I love them, and their enthusiasm, and especially their passion for that particular project as well.
I mean, talk about attention to detail. Some of the stuff they talked about was just amazing.
When you asked me earlier about who are some of the best drinkers, of course, I landed on Bond, but Sinatra did pop to my mind.
Good one. All right, let's close it out. What's exciting to you these days, like in the world of gin? I know you mentioned some at the top with the audio test, but is it trends? Is it just something in the world of bartending mixology you're seeing with gin?
I am forever enthusiastic and excited about the cocktail industry right now. And what I love about the cocktail part of the bar industry is they always bring gin along with them. But I've seen the last couple of years it get more and more diverse in the offerings of the drinks that are coming from different bars. And so a lot of the old formulas, which are still being used by the people that do it so well, there aren't more and more bars being opened that just do it the old way. There are more and more bars doing it their way, because the skill is evolving. And so you get more and more bars borrowing from the techniques of the best chefs in the world right now. If you think about the biggest trend for me, which is weirdly enough, having cocktails pre-made so that we can get them out quickly, that shows that the consumers are now trusting the bartender a lot more. But of course, what the bartenders are now doing is a lot more prep in back of house with incredible equipment to lead to more exciting drinks. And what I'm happy about is that gin still seems to be an inspiration for those bartenders. And it's still the category that they use the most. And so I would say it's not so much the gin that's exciting as much as it's what the bartenders are doing with the gin right now. And for the bartenders that take Forged Gin on that journey, thank you, because that's what we're about.
Yeah. I love that so much. So cool. So interesting when you think about that.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, I was talking about that with Thunderbolt.
They do such an amazing job back of house. I think Shinji's as well in New York. I bet you what 11 Madison Park has just done is incredible.
Curious to check that out too.
Yeah, you're starting to see that more and more. And I just came back from a trip to Southeast Asia, and I was in places like Bangkok and Singapore, which both those cities continue to remain some of the most inspiring places to try new and interesting types of drinks in the world. It was really incredible. So I'm right now going from one bar to the next bar to the next bar isn't all the same drinks. It's like, wow, look at what these guys are doing. A bar crawl now, if you're into cocktails, is like going to lots of different restaurants for different dishes rather than staying in one place. And that actually makes the world really, really exciting for drinking right now.
I love that so much. Simon, thank you. You're in Spain, so it's your nighttime. We appreciate you taking the time to record with us. As I always say, and I will continue to say, we here at Beyond the Plate, Beyond the Drink are so grateful for you, for this incredible bartending community and industry. I'm continuously inspired by them. Each one you all bring to the table for us. So we really want to express our gratitude for that.
Yeah, and thank you for giving them a platform to share what they do, because for many, many years, people didn't understand what bartenders were doing. And they are creative. They give amazing hospitality. They're passionate people. And often they're just seen as someone that gave you a drink and took your money. And that is not who they are. And shows like this, where you share their journeys and their stories and their art, it helps get the word out. So grateful to you as well.
Awesome, man. Thank you. It was awesome to catch up as always.
Yeah, good to see you. And thank you for having me on again.
This episode was produced by myself, along with Ian Cohen, Joel Yetton, and Sean Petrosian. Our digital media producer is Sarah McClellan-Mead. Our music has been composed by Goldford. Find him at iGoldford. As always, special shout out to my wife, Katie. If you have not started following me yet, you should. Find me across all social media at On Cappy's Plate, or go to BeyondThePlatePodcast.com and keep up to date with Beyond the Plate. Beyond the Plate is also on social at BT Plate Podcast. If you have a moment, we'd be grateful of your support by rating, reviewing, and even hitting that subscribe button to the podcast. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Drink, a production of Beyond the Plate. I'm Cappy.